what are some of these things? How can we encourage domestic production of some of these things? Interest rate. When China, because of the energy consumption that they were having some years ago, they moved their interest rate to stop export. In fact, the government had to tell them to slow down production because of the energy costs. Now, Chinese government, according to information I had, source for raw materials for these manufacturers. Because Nigeria needs to move from, to start from a raw material base kind of thing, so that we know that the raw materials we need will be produced here instead of it being imported. Then we transit to industrialization.
Okay.
That is the kind of plan that we have.
All right. Ajuri.
Thank you so much, Chamberlain. Dr. Nweze, just very quickly, if we're talking about the expansion of the extreme impoverished in Nigeria, surpassing India, you know, even if you had the best economic policies on ground and you even had the best economic drivers to implement that policy, to what extent does culture begin to influence these kinds of rankings? Because ultimately, if you look at northern Nigeria, where a man who makes less than 3,000 naira a month, perhaps a gate man or an unemployed person, can have up to 20 or 25 children with various wives, and he can't really cater for them. The children don't even have access to education. So the question is, even if you want to grow the economy, but you have this expansion of numbers unchecked by any of the state governments in the north, for example, how do you contain that? How do you stop that from happening?
Well, I like that question. In 2013, I was in Sokoto, and a similar question was thrown at me. And the question was, how do you make people to be, because the gentleman that asked me that question was saying that his other brother, kept going to local government to collect money, to marry a new wife. When that wife puts to bed, he also goes back to the local government to collect money to buy goat and other things he needs for the ceremony. So how do we reorientate the people to be able to be thinking more entrepreneurial and also to be thinking less of government? But the brother said that government is there to take care of him. And that's the attitude. So culture has a way, has a great impact on how, but again, the socialization can also, it help to solve some of these people. And most importantly, education. Because there's no way you get out of poverty without education.
We'll take it from there when we'll come back in a moment. Don't go away. There's so many perspectives to this, even if you need to get people out of poverty and those industries are being set up. But can we actually separate the fact that you need to have a secure environment to do business in the first place?
That's right. That's number one job, the state has to provide. If I'm an investor, I need to set up a factory somewhere. I must make sure that, yes, that you have a benign kind of political environment and security, And then, what about your tax? What about your tax? If your tax rate is so high and all that, it will not make sense, So these are some of the things you have to, and then how can I get the required manpower? Do I need to import people?
Let's look at that, because we know some industries here, how they brought in so many expatriates who are qualified according to them to do those jobs, because we don't have this kind of manpower here. But if we explore the Chinese example and their plan to bring about 40 million people out of poverty by 2020, now even if we say, okay, look, let's get some rich industrialists to go into different states and invest, how much impact can that have? Taking into cognizance, number one, they need manpower.
Yes.
Do we have it?
Now, we still need to import in some of these places. But the point is that there has to be some kind of state of emergency on education. Once the whole lot that education can do, it will two types of education. The one that enables you to make a living and the one that actually enables you to live. Now, education that enables you to live is your values. You cannot afford to. I believe in us having many children. You know, my father had us 30 of us, and I believe that we could, population, yes. But again, there's a disadvantage. If you cannot afford, you get to where the moment you can afford, education will enable you to have. I say, okay, I cannot take, for me, I don't want more than 3 kids. And I have 3 kids. Upon everything that's done, I said no because of my education. So the starting point of getting us out of even the culturally, okay, is to really get us educated. You know, not only in acquiring degrees, but in our value system. Like the man in Abuja said about the culture and all that. Somebody said about the leadership can actually change that culture that, you know, will not enable, like what happened in Singapore. It was a cultural thing, and it took leadership to change that culture that they had. You know, like something like the Chinese spitting when they are talking and all that and all that. It took them, you know, leadership to change that culture, or even chewing gum and all that. So there's a lot leadership can do through education to change some of these things, to bring the people, and through socialization. And then some industrialists investing in those areas. For instance, Erisco Foods that produces a tomato paste in Lagos here. And he told me that some governors in the Katsina or so invited him to come and set up. But again, if there are no required manpower there, he still has to move his people. Just like the Chinese are doing. Anywhere China is going, they're moving with their own population. With the Chinese, they're not developing the economies of local economies.
Depending on the agreements you have with
yes,
them.
They're bringing their own people. And in Africa, the Latin Caribbean, they're also doing that. So Africans, they don't know how to negotiate with China. They come with their own human resource, with their own people, not employing local population. But the point is that we need to look at some documents that we have and be serious, determine where we have to play. First of all, become raw material base where we can feed our industries.
Even though I understand the Office of the Vice President, I think the PBEC also are also working to address some of these challenges. But we'll anchor at this point. Dr. Austin Wise is an economist with Pan-Atlantic University. African University. Thank you for coming on this morning. All right, that's the show today. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. I'm Chamberlain Usal.
I'm Gimba Omar.
I'm Nel Taigbe.
Have a great day, everybody. I'm Ajuri Ngilale.
The views and opinions expressed by guests on this program are those of the maker and do not necessarily reflect the views, opinions, and endorsement of Channels Television.